Hello everyone. Today we are analyzing a critical news story from Tamil Nadu that serves as a grim reminder of the gaps in India's industrial safety framework. On a recent Sunday, a massive explosion at the Vanaj fireworks unit at Virudunagar claimed 23 lives. This is not just an accident. It is a multi-dimensional governance failure. Let's break this down through different lenses of governance. First, we look at the socio-economic dimension. Virudunagar, particularly Sivkasi, is a global hub for firecrackers due to its semi-arid climate, which is ideal for chemical drying. However, this geography comes with a social cost. Vulnerability of labor. The victims are often women and marginalized groups. The report mentions an injured child, pointing towards the persistent issue of adolescent labor in hazardous industries. The second is informalization. Despite being a massive industry, much of the work happens in the informal sector where workers lack social security and take extreme risks for daily wages, even working on shutdown days like Sundays to meet demands. Now let's come to governance and regulatory framework and disaster management perspective. From this point of view, we see a collapse of regulatory apparatus. The unit was operating on a Sunday without permission. The district collector noted that while the license allows only 12 workers per shed, 23 died in the single blast. This highlights the issue of subleasing. Primary license holders often lease their sheds to unskilled subcontractors who ignore the Explosive Act and Explosives Rules 2008 to maximize their output. Now, talking about industrial safety and disaster management, the news report mentions a second explosion that injured rescue personnel. There was a lack of inter-safety distances between sheds, which meant that a fire in one area caused a chain reaction. There are also instances of recurring disasters. Data shows 134 deaths in this district since 2022. This indicates that the PESO, Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, and the state authorities are failing in periodic inspections and enforcements. Now, what's worth thinking is that the factory owners prioritized profit by operating illegally on a holiday, showing the total lack of corporate social responsibility and professional ethics, and total disregard for human life. This requires empathetic governance coupled with strict accountability. Virudunagar tragedy is a man-made disaster. We need digital monitoring using GPS or QR-coded licenses for sheds. We need formalization, bringing all the cottage scale units under strict institutional credit and safety audits. We need skill development, training workers in chemical handling to reduce human error. And as far as common citizen is concerned, we need to hold our civil servants and representatives accountable for any loss of life in this nation. Now let's analyze another news. April 13th saw Noida's industrial belt turn into a battlefield. Vehicles were set ablaze and stones were hurled. But if you think that this is just about a few extra rupees in the paycheck, you are missing bigger picture. Today we analyze the structural rot in India's labor market through the latest data. Let's understand the paradox of formal and informal labor. Even in the registered factories, nearly 60% of workers in India have no written contract. They are ghost employees in a legal sense. This allows companies to bypass the ESI and Provident Fund requirements. Looking at the trend, contract labor has jumped from 35% to 42% in a decade. This is the gigification of manufacturing sector. Now, talking about the inflation trap, the government announced a 21% wage hike. But why are workers still angry? While the number on the paycheck went up, the cost of living in NCR surged by 50%. When the Strait of Hormuz is blocked or global tariffs rise, the factories face higher costs. The CITU argues that these costs are being recovered from the stomachs of the workers. There's also a governance gap. UP has significantly lower wages than Delhi. This regional disparity leads to mass migration and poor bargaining power. The lack of basic facilities like clean water, toilets, and safety shows a failure in labor inspections. It is a classic case of policy versus implementation. For India to become a manufacturing powerhouse, make in India, we cannot rely on a precariat a precarious proletariat. We need universal social security. We need mandatory written contracts, inflation indexed minimum wages. Without these, the demographic dividend could easily turn into a demographic disaster. That's it for today's analysis.